What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Wednesday afternoon. It's Wednesday, mate. I mean, the start. the sirens are out already. Oh, it's not the sirens we want to hear. We want to hear the sirens of the Champions League. Not that they have sirens. We want to hear the music of the Champions League. Hopefully, we'll hear it after this game, which is Manchester United versus Chelsea tomorrow, Old Trafford, evening kickoff under the lights. Eventually, the days are getting much longer now, and the sunlight is out much longer, certainly. But we are here to talk about the press conference ahead of the game tomorrow at Old Trafford. 1 point required. That's all we need. Just 1 point, but that separates us from Champions League, I say glory, qualification. That's probably the best way to say it. Champions League qualification. That's all we need. And Erik ten Hag has been talking to the assembled media. Erik ten Hag has been talking to the assembled media at Carrington today ahead of tomorrow evening's kickoff. How is everyone feeling? What's everyone files in? Because I am early. It was going to be 1 o'clock. And these press conferences, I swear, are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. They really are. I mean, this one was maybe a little bit longer than the one the other day. But the one I did the other day was, it was like 4 minutes. 4 minutes in length. Obviously, it's an abridged version. I think the full press conference gets released later on this evening at like 10:30, something like that. But still, this was about 5 minutes, something like that. He talked about a host of... Actually, you know what? I've got something to say, actually, about this press conference, it must be said, is that for whatever reason, and it's a short press conference, so again, it's like 5 or 6 minutes, the same question was asked like 3 or 4 times about how important... And it's a question that everyone knows the answer to. How important is it to get into the Champions League? And you could tell, actually, watching it, that Ten Hag was getting a little bit frustrated, it must be said, by going, do I have to repeat myself here? Did I have to say the same thing over again? It would be, how important is it to make the Champions League? It's clear. It's very important. Yeah, you're right, Eric. Yeah, very important. You know, how important is it to get in the Champions League? What? I just answered that. And then you get maybe a question about something else and come back to it. And they go, yeah, that person over there. Yep. Hi, Eric. Hope you're doing well. How important is it to get that point and play in the Champions League? We know. Very important. He just said it's very important. Oh, my goodness me. Oh, sometimes, honestly. So as everyone's filing in, Sophia O'Connor, one of our members, says, afternoon, Owen. Jonathan also, another member says, big up UV family. He's got the Owen emoji. And Blue Dabba Dabba says, hello. And hello, I'm Blue. I don't know whether to end that in terms of the first and last name part of the name. Is it I'm Blue? I'm Blue Dabba. And then the rest is D Dabba Die. I'm not sure. JK says he should just reply with very. Yeah, of course. It's clear. As he said, it's clear. It's very important. Very important. But honestly, it was every question, every other question, it would be, Eric, how important is it to play in the Champions League? Obviously, it's very important. That's what we aim for. You know, that's where we want to compete for the biggest trophies and compete with the best teams. You've got to be in the Champions League to do that. And they go, yeah, I agree. Rashford, what's the update of Rashford? Yeah, could be playing tomorrow. Yeah. How important is it to play in the Champions League? I'm sweating. Am I going crazy? Groundhog Day, it feels like. Oh, I'm like Bill Murray. Honestly. So be sure to smash the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Steph's in the chat as well, saying, hi, everyone. Big up, Steph, as always. Says, I don't want 1 point. I want 3. I want 6. I want 3 points from this game and 3 points from the game against Fulham. And then, look, a third place finish is not off the table for Manchester United at the moment. After Newcastle drew, of course, they're in the Champions League. And, you know, you get into this stage of the season, it doesn't really matter that much. As long as you get into the Champions League, it doesn't really matter. But still, if we could finish third and a trophy and an FA Cup final, we'd have ripped your hand off for that at the start of the season. Compost says, Eric, is it important for us to breathe? And they might as well. They might as well ask those kind of questions. Eric, how important is it that the sun rises and the sun sets? Eric, is it important that the earth spins? Yeah. Yeah. It is. Eric, is it important for us to eat and drink? I think it's clear. Yeah. Eric, how important is it that we score goals in matches? Yeah. Yeah. Eric, is it important that goals aren't conceded by your team? Yeah. I think so. Honestly, it was crazy at points. Anyway, let's get into some of these questions. The first of which was, how important is it to get this point to get into the Champions League? And Ten Hag said, you just got to let him. You know what it is as well? I was thinking before I went live, I haven't heard a siren in a while. And then I literally go, boom, live, siren. You know what it is? They're going to get these journalists. Stupid questions. It's a crime. Anyway, the first question was, how important is it to get this point into the Champions League? And he said, quote, if you make that question, you already have your answer. We want to compete with the best, then you have to be in the Champions League. I mean, I can't even really do that much analysis on that one because it's clear, obviously. And to be honest, even Ten Hag's response to that is like, if you're asking that question, of course, look, I get it. I get it. It's one of those questions that you have to ask. Of course, you've got to ask, because if you don't ask, you know, it's part. That's the subplot. Well, that's not the subplot. It's the main plot heading into this one, of course, isn't it? Is that if we get the point, we're in the Champions League. But to ask the question constantly, you know, and if the first person asks it, that's kind of out the way. That's it, and then you move on, ask different questions. But we want to be in the Champions League. That's what this season's been for, is to try and win trophies. You know, obviously the Premier League is way out of our reach, but the season's aim has been to get into the Champions League and go far in a cup competition. So, of course, you want to be in the Champions League. Of course, you want to get that point. No, we don't want to get that point. No, we're happy. You know, just honestly. Crazy. Next question was, but in terms of the targets you set yourself at the start of the season, is that what you wanted to? Is that what you wanted to do at the start of the season? And he said, it's clear. We want to win every game. Tomorrow, we want to do the same. Play dominant football and get the job done. So, again, it's clear. It's very obvious. Yes, we want to be in the Champions League. Now, this was a question that was quite interesting about Anthony Martial. And the question was, and this is, again, more of a sort of probing question when it comes to the Champions League and next season and the plans in the summer. It's clear, that we're going for a striker. That's been the thing that's really held us back a lot this season, is that we haven't been scoring enough goals. Our defensive record's actually all right, apart from those games which we've kind of capitulated, but our defensive record's pretty good. We need to score more goals. So the question was put to Ten Hag, with your squad, obviously you're not going to say who you're going for next season or transfer plans or anything like that. But lots of people have been talking about Anthony Martial and the connection between the striking position not being sorted. There's an argument to be made that it hasn't worked with him this season. He's been injured quite a lot, maybe not scoring as many goals as one would have hoped, considering that at one point his record, despite not playing, was okay. There was a reaction to him going off against Bournemouth at the weekend. And they ended the question with something that Ten Hag's never going to say. They asked him, are you going to get rid of him? Are you going to get rid of Anthony Martial? And of course, Ten Hag went, no. He's going to break that news in this press conference. Yeah, we're going to get rid of Anthony Martial. Not the day before one of the most important games of the season. But what was quite interesting in his response about Martial is he said, quote, if you're not available, you can't score. When he was available, we played better. The team is winning games. He's also scoring goals, but he has to be available, which is quite interesting too, because there's many ways to read into that, isn't there? There's an argument to be made when you listen to what he says and you read there what he says, saying that, you know, he's scoring goals, but he has to be available. If you're not available, you can't score. That sounds like someone's kind of run out a bit of patience with Anthony Martial, honestly. And I think, in fairness, quite a lot of Man United fans, some people had run out of patience with Anthony Martial a long, long time ago. Some were willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for this season, and that benefit of the doubt didn't work out too well, did it? You know, this was a guy that in pre-season, I think, cast your mind back to pre-season last year, the tour of Thailand and Australia, and people were looking at Martial going, man, this guy looks reborn. You know, he struggled at Sevilla. He had injuries. He had injuries at United previously. Under Ollie, he had one foot out the door, but he was brilliant in pre-season. Great link-up play with Rashford and Sancho. And we said, you know what? This guy looks like maybe we're going to see the best of him. We're going to see finally the best of Martial. He's going to be once again, because he's only really had it like once before in his career when he was the main guy. He was the striker. And when that happened, he did score goals. And everyone thought, here we go. Okay, done well in pre-season. Let's see if he carries it over to the Premier League. And we started as we meant to go on with Martial really this season, because the first game of the season, Brighton, he was injured. I remember it was a press conference like the day before, a couple of days before the game. Breaking news, Martial's injured. And everyone went, what? He's injured. And then that's just been out for the entirety of the season. Now, I don't think it's fair to scapegoat Martial or anything like that. Oh, it's Martial's fault we haven't scored goals this season. But look, there can be an element of blame on him for you weren't available. You know, you weren't. He hasn't been available. And it's very, very clear. You cannot rely on Anthony Martial. You can't. You can't. You can't rely on Martial. I tell you what, these sirens are taking a piss. This is on the siren scale. This is a new one. This is a new one. Do you know what it is? Lots of people ask me to go, oh, do you live next to a police station? I don't as well. I just live off a main road. That's the problem. I just live off a main road that clearly is a route for sirens of all kind, by the way. It's not even necessarily. It could be police, it could be ambulance, it could be fire engine, all the time. And they all come in bunches. They're like London buses. Just it's so annoying. It's so annoying, honestly. And the worst thing is that you get used to it. I can't remember what it's called. There's like a psychological phenomenon. I can't remember what it's called. But you know, like for instance, if there's a car alarm going off outside and it's going over and over and over and over and over again, of course, when it first goes off, you're like, that's so annoying, or it keeps going on. But if it's going on for like 5 minutes, eventually you kind of just are able to tune it out. You know what I mean? You're able just to sort of not hear it anymore. And that's what I'm like with these bloody sirens, honestly. And Josh is laughing because he knows as well. He knows. I will send Josh voice notes just about anything. And in the background, I'll go siren. I'm like that dog. Was it in Up? When he goes, squirrel, I'll be talking. I'll go, yes, I think with Anthony Martial, siren. And then I'll carry on. It's disgraceful. Siren view. That's the most entertaining thing to come out of this, to be honest, is actually this. So there you go. I forgot what I was doing. Oh, yeah. Martial. Yeah, we need a new striker. And I'm with a lot of people. I've run out of patience with him. You know, I'm not opposed to him staying at all, but it's just a case of you can't rely on him to be your number 9, your striker, that person that's going to get you the goals, because his injury record isn't up to snuff. And as far as letting him go in the summer, personally, I would let him go in the summer if an offer came in. But at this stage, who's going to come in for Anthony Martial? He's on big wages. Any team, I think, would also realize this guy, he gets injured a lot. You know, we're not gonna match that contract that he's got. How much are we gonna pay for him? You know, so I don't think he'll go in the summer. But we're preaching to the converted here. We need a striker. You know, but again, if an offer comes in, I think United should make him available for a move, no doubt about it. Possibly another loan or something like that. But I think any club would probably be hesitant, really, about picking him up in the summer. And as Ten Hag said, if you're not available, you can't score. And I don't even necessarily disagree with what Ten Hag's been saying there. That when he has played, of course we've played better because we don't have any other options. You know, it's him or Weghorst up front. Of course we play better when Martial plays because he's not a bad player. He just don't play. He's injured most of the time. It is Wednesday, the 24th of May. Yeah, we are 2 games away from the season ending. The season will be over on Sunday. Kickoff's at 4:30, so around 6 o'clock. The season will be over. As of today, Wednesday, May 24th, Anthony Martial has still not completed 90 minutes this season. Do you know how crazy that is? I mean, I don't even know if he's done it in all comps. Definitely not in the Premier League. He has not done 90 minutes. That is nuts. that is the player that we're talking about. Oh, he's our starting striker. Whatever he does starts. That is unacceptable. Yeah, it's not right. You cannot rely on that. So we need a striker. And as I mentioned, it kind of sounded a bit like to me that Ten Hag was getting again, I think his patience, I think, to be honest, Ten Hag's patience ran out a long time ago. And if we had money in January, make no mistake, we'd have got a striker. I mean, we did in Weghorst, but we'd have got someone much better. Lil Yo-Yo says he hasn't, Owen, at all. That's nuts. That is crazy. And even the look that Martial had when he came off against Bournemouth, and he did come off earlier than expected, which I was a bit surprised about. It was like 55 minutes and he came off. Maybe he had that look because he was like, oh, I'm not going to do 90 minutes again. Because Ten Hag knows. He knows the player. I mean, you can only make the mistake so many times of trying to rush this guy back or trying to have him play too many minutes or whatever and him break down. So Ten Hag knows this guy can't play 90 minutes. So 55 minutes, if we're 1-0 up, he's like, I'm taking him off. So I need him for the next game because we do play better when he's on the pitch. But we're 1-0 up, I'm taking off because I know if I played you 90 today, Thursday, you're not playing. Because you'll break down. You're made of glass. And some players I kind of feel for, because some players do get hit with that reputation when they'll say, oh, so-and-so so injury prone. For instance, Harry Kane. They say, they go, Harry Kane's so injury prone. And he's really not. He's not. Again, he hasn't had an injury since like 2021. But people like Anthony Martial, they absolutely deserve that association of being injury prone, because he is. Like, it's not good enough for a club like United. You cannot have that kind of injury record for any Premier League club, really. So again, not good enough. The next question to Ten Hag was, obviously, you need just a point. Are you about where you thought you would be, or are you ahead of schedule? Is this what you spoke about when you joined the club with the owners and the hierarchy at Manchester United? Are you about where you thought you were, or are you ahead of schedule? And Ten Hag said, quote, first, we have to win the game tomorrow and get the job done. That is about judgment from others, if it's a good, bad, or normal performance. We are in a project. We want to go back and win trophies. We win one trophy, but we want more trophies, compete with the best. We are still in a journey, but we think we are in the right direction, but it can always be better, because good is not good enough. Put it on a t-shirt with Ten Hag's face. You'll print money. Good is not good enough. And again, it's one of those, it's an interesting one. The question, are we ahead of schedule? Are we about where we thought we would be? Or is Ten Hag at where he thought he would be so far at United? I guess I will ask you. Actually, let me put a poll in the chat quickly. As to if United are ahead of schedule. Start a poll. Are United ahead of schedule? Poll is in the chat. Are we ahead of schedule? I would say yes. I would say yes, because I think we had these conversations at the start of the season, didn't we? I remember vividly a full view. And if someone can let me know which one it was, I'll go back and find it. You know me with my memory. But I would say the United are ahead of schedule in terms of where we thought we would be at the start of the season, coming off of last season. My goodness me, of how bad and drab it was. I remember that day against Crystal Palace, last day of the season, Ranić's last game. United were just toothless. They'd given up. The season was awful, and you had Ten Hag, Steve McLaren, Mitchell van der Gaag in the stands, and we were hoping and praying for a better Manchester United, a Manchester United that we could enjoy, a Manchester United that we could believe in. And we were hoping just for a team of people that tried. And it's been up and down this season, no doubt about it. We've still had those embarrassing and those bad moments. And to be honest, I think even next season we'll continue to have them. I'm not even saying that those kind of really disappointing sort of collapsing defeats can't happen again, because I still think it takes more than another transfer window to really weed out those mentality problems that United still clearly have. But if you were to ask me, are we ahead of schedule? I would say yes. I think so. I think what has helped us this season is that clubs around us that we expected to perform didn't. I don't think you can. I don't think you can argue that. You know, if Liverpool were at their best this season and Chelsea were at their best this season, that top four race would have been a lot more competitive. Obviously, Spurs dropped off massively this season. They started okay, but they dropped off massively. They might not even make European football when all said and done at the weekend. So we're definitely ahead of schedule, and I think we've been somewhat fortunate with other clubs not performing. But that's not to say we haven't played well, because we have played well. In the last few months, have we played our best football? No. Are we falling over the line? Yes. We are falling over the line, and that's what I thought we would do, though. When you looked at the games remaining, Wolves at home, Bournemouth away, Chelsea at home, Fulham at home. We've got just enough about us to get us over the line, but there still needs to be significant improvement in the summer because, as I mentioned, and sometimes we forget this as United fans, that we focus so much on our business and the transfer business that we're going to do or hopefully do, and all of the chaos surrounding the Manchester United takeover as well, is that those clubs that did underperform this season, they will be back next season. Liverpool, I have no doubt in my mind, will be have a significantly better season next season than they did this season because they're already starting to show the signs of getting back, maybe not to the level they were at previously, but getting some of that consistency back. Yes, they dropped points to Aston Villa at the weekend, but recently they've been on a good run of form, and I do think they'll be better. Chelsea, I don't know what Chelsea are going to look like next season. I don't think anyone knows realistically, but I think they'll be better than what they are right now. And this is a Man United versus Chelsea press conference stream. They will be better than being in the bottom half or something like that. But as to answer the question, are we ahead of schedule? I think so. I think a lot of people maybe some people did think we'd get top 4. I didn't think we would, honestly. I thought that there was real problems at United. And I think particularly when you look at the start of the season as well, losing those first 2 games in the manner that we did, if you'd have asked anyone, any United fan after that Brentford defeat, if we would get top 4, possibly finish 3rd this season, people would have said, are you crazy? No chance at all. Even after we beat Liverpool, I think at Old Trafford, if you'd asked people, are we going to get top 4? They'd say, I don't know. I'm really not sure. So the fact that, we're a point away, we could finish 3rd, we've won a trophy, we're in an FA Cup final. I would say that's somewhat of an overachievement for Erik ten Hag this season. First trophy in 5 years as well. I would say we're ahead of schedule. But just because we're ahead of schedule, that's no excuse not to crack on, not to develop even more. And my concern is with all of the takeover uncertainty is that we stall this summer because we don't know what's going on. Stuff doesn't get signed off. Stuff doesn't get approval from those above because no one knows what's going on. And those clubs that I mentioned will improve, will get better, will invest. They jump over us because they've got a solid plan. They've got a solid game plan of what they're going to do. So, but we'll see what you said in the poll, actually. Poll's been up just for a couple of minutes. And the question was, are United ahead of schedule? And the 70% say yes. Yes, United are. Or 71% now say yes, United are ahead of schedule. So there you go. We've got over 450 people watching. 107 likes. We can get to 150. I believe, if you believe. What else are people saying as well in the chat? Love says, especially if we beat City in the final, cherry on top of a great season. Absolutely. Well, we'd stop City winning the treble as well. That would certainly be fantastic too. What else are we saying here? Eskimo says we ended last summer saying we would accept top 6 happily, which is true. Again, you go back to that game against Palace at the end of last season. We were just like, we just want to see our team play well. And we have this season. We've had good moments and good matches. And again, winning the trophy and getting top 4, I think, is ahead of schedule. Wu-Ming says Qatar might end up buying West Ham instead. That was a really strange story that was put out there, and it was very quickly debunked as not being true. It's not to say that a Qatari entity might purchase another Premier League or pushes a stake or anything like that. But specifically, Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani wouldn't be fronting any club because he's a Man United fan. Again, that's not to say that Qatar might not end up buying a stake. There'd been rumors about Spurs and stuff like that, buying a minority stake or 49% or something like that. But that story was a strange one over the weekend because it came from like some outlet based in Spain. And everyone sort of went, what? And then I think very quickly it was like, no, that's not happening. The next question was about Marcus Rashford. Now, of course, Marcus Rashford's missed the last couple of games, first through injury, then through illness. So the question was about Rashford. Is he fully fit? Is he ready? Is he going to be playing against Chelsea tomorrow? And Ten Hag said, quote, yesterday he returned to training. There were pictures of him training at Carrington. He looks quite fit, but we'll have to see today and what the outcome is of the training, how he recovered, and then we'll make our choices. So Rashford certainly will be in the squad. No doubt about that. He'll be in the squad. As to whether he starts or not, I would think so. I mean, obviously, he was going to start against Bournemouth, and then the day before he came down with an illness and he wasn't in the squad. I would suspect Rashford starts. Yes, we won those 2 games, and you could argue don't change your winning side or anything like that, but I would suspect he would replace Jadon Sancho on the left. And this is when we talk about Jadon Sancho, I think he's in a bit of trouble, in a bit of big trouble, because if Marcus Rashford had been fit and available against Wolves and Bournemouth, he would have played. He would have started. And in those 2 instances, I think that we would have seen the sub that we saw in both games, which was Alejandro Garnacho comes on. And this is the problem that Jadon Sancho finds right now, is that if everyone's fit and available, where does Jadon Sancho fit into that side? How does he get into that side? Because for me, at the moment, Rashford's ahead of him. He's the starter on the left. And in terms of an impact option, an option to change the game, an option to inject some pace, some directness, I think you bring on Alejandro Garnacho. And then I look at Jadon Sancho, which I was really surprised after the Bournemouth game, watching it with my 2 eyes, not paying attention to stats and all that kind of stuff, because obviously, look, stats can tell a story, but stats, like any numbers, can be manipulated to prove whatever point you're trying to make. And I saw some people try and suggest that Jadon Sancho had a good game against Bournemouth. And I thought to myself, if you watched that game, he did not have a good game. You can talk about touches or take-ons or successful passes or anything like that. It wasn't good from him. Now, again, it's not to say Jadon Sancho was the reason we didn't win that game 3 or 4-0, but he didn't have a good game, in my opinion. He backed out tackles. He wasn't aggressive enough. I thought he made some poor passes and poor decisions. And just, there's not, you go through halves of football and you just say, like, what have you done? He felt like a passenger throughout the majority of the game. And now, if that Rashford's back, I look at him and I say, how is he going to get into the side? Honestly, maybe if he comes on, he might go on the right. But at this rate, honestly, with Ahmad coming back, I'd rather have Ahmad on the right-hand side if it's not Anthony. And it's going to be Anthony most of the time because it's Ten Hag's guy. But I'd rather have Ahmad on the right-hand side. In the 10, you could argue that he could play in the 10, but Bruno Fernandes is the 10 and he plays every game and he doesn't come off as well. And he's the captain. So going forward, I look at Sancho and I think, how on earth is he going to get into that side? And when he does play, is he really taking opportunities? Is he really making the difference? I thought he was unfortunate against Spurs when he scored, because I actually did think he did all right in that game, but I just didn't see it. But this is, look, it's all about opinion. I mean, Ollie Universe says here the Sancho agenda is crazy. He was better than Anthony in that game. I disagree. Obviously, look, it's about opinions. I'm not one is right or wrong, but I just didn't see it in that game. And in this team, I just don't see it, honestly. And I do think that he's not going anywhere in the summer or anything like that. But I do think he's got basically a season left at United, really. I think he's got a season left to prove himself. And he'll get it, but it's going to be really interesting to see what he does next season. Harvey says Rashford has been awful since his purple patch. Rashford's not been good since his purple patch. No, I totally agree. He's not been great since really that injury he got just before the was it Sevilla at home or just before the Everton? It was Everton. He got that injury and he hasn't been the same. And even then he wasn't particularly great. And he hasn't. It felt like at points that he had regressed a little bit. He was being the Marcus Rashford of old of just running into alleys, running into players, not doing the right pass decision making, not being good enough. But still, at the moment, I still would play him ahead of Sancho, honestly. But again, I think it's going to be interesting to see if he comes back at the weekend, or tomorrow rather. I think he'll come back. I think the team, to be honest, I mean, there's going to be a preview later on today, so be sure to check that out when it comes out, 6:00. But that front four of the wingers, the 10 and the striker, I think would be Rashford, Bruno, Anthony, and Martial. And I think Sancho would be on the bench, honestly. Next question was about, you guessed it, the significance of getting in the Champions League. And it was about, in terms of the project, what is the significance of getting in the Champions League, making the next step and attracting players Ten Hag said, we want to compete with the best, so you need to be in the Champions League. Simple. And by this point, you could tell he was getting pissed off. I was getting pissed off watching it, going, well, you've asked this question like 3 or 4 times. This press conference is like 7 minutes long, and half the questions have been, how important is it to get in the Champions League? So he said, obviously, you want to compete with the best, you need to be in the Champions League. It's simple. And then the follow-up to that was, great follow-up. So to attract the best players, you need to be in the Champions League. Yeah. Yes. He said to compete with the best, you need to be in the Champions League. For the Premier League, to qualify for the Champions League, you need to be in the first 4. It's not easy, as many clubs are competing, but that's where we want to be. I mean, again, like, yes, it's important. He might as well have sat down, Ten Hag, and sat down before he even said it again. Before you ask, yes, I want to be in the Champions League. It's important. Next question. And finally, and this was quite interesting, but it was as much of an answer as you're probably going to get with Ten Hag when it comes to anything transfers, not specifically this player. But he was asked by Melissa Reddy from Sky Sports. There have been lots of strong reports of Manchester United interest in Neymar. Can you comment on that? What are your thoughts on the player? And Ten Hag said what he said all last summer. And this was maybe a bit of a teaser for the rest of the summer, because this is what it's going to be like in all of these press conferences when Ten Hag is asked about players. He said, quote, when we have news, we will tell you. Now, some can take it many different ways, this one. I saw people on Twitter going, he didn't say no, so you're telling me, Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber, so you're telling me there's a chance. Neymar to United. He didn't say no. He didn't say hogwash. No, we're not signing Neymar. He said, when we have news, we'll tell you. Whoa, maybe Neymar at Old Trafford. I think he's just, that's his answer for everything transfers, isn't it? It's just, if we've got any news, we'll tell you. They asked that about Frankie de Jong last year. When we have news, we'll tell you. We didn't end up signing Frankie de Jong, despite the fact we did. I remember this the other day. We did agree a deal with Barcelona for Frankie de Jong. It was a backwards kind of deal. Usually, you agree a deal with the player, then you go to the club and you sort of work out the fee. And we had agreed a fee for him last year, and he was like, I don't care if you've agreed a fee. I'm not coming. I don't have to leave. I've got a contract for however many years at Barcelona. I like it here. I'm not going anywhere. But when Ten Hag was asked about that, and when he was asked about other players as well last year, he always said, when we have news, we'll tell you. So you could look at that as, well, he didn't say no. Is Neymar coming to United? But I just looked at it as that's what Ten Hag says about transfers. I still don't think Neymar is going to come to United. To me, and this isn't any insider sources or scoops or anything like that, to me, this really feels like from the players' side of things and from PSG's side of things, they're trying to push this player onto whatever club would be willing to take him and pick up either the full financial package in terms of a permanent deal or a loan package or something like that. That's what it feels like. It feels like PSG and his agents or his intermediaries, that's what Sky Sports said yesterday, intermediaries had reached out to United as well as other clubs to see if, to say basically Neymar's available this summer if you want him. But United are sort of like, well, we're not interested. We've got 100 million plus player sales reported. Again, I don't know how accurate that is, but we don't have a lot. We certainly don't have enough to be picking up Neymar just on a jolly and getting every other target that we need to get. We need to be better than this. We need to learn from the mistakes of the past. If this was Ed Woodward, he wouldn't be able to contain himself right now. He'd go scrap everything else, forget a striker, forget a centre-back, forget a midfielder. Neymar Jr., the shirts we could get and we could sell. Think of the marketing materials. Think of the promotional campaign we could have done. It would be special. Vince McMahon voice. It'd be special. But we don't need that. We don't. We need a striker. We need a midfielder. We need a defender and some other targets and some other positions that are more important than getting Neymar in at this point. And again, to me, it feels like certainly it's Neymar's people. Because it's funny that Man United were the only named team in that. But when you do look at the reports, it says the intermediaries for Neymar reached out to Man United and a lot of other clubs. But obviously, the sort of sexy headline and the headline that gets the most interest and the most clicks and the most reads is Neymar to United. In reality, PSG have reached out to, and Neymar's intermediaries have reached out to lots of clubs around Europe to say, would you take Neymar? But Neymar to Spurs isn't as exciting, or Neymar to wherever isn't as exciting as Neymar to Manchester United. So I don't think that's happening. It would be naive and stupid for United to do that, honestly. And I know, again, we spoke about this yesterday morning, Flex and myself. People will go, so you're saying that Neymar, people like Sancho that you've just criticized, and Rashford, they're better than Neymar. Is that what you're saying? I didn't say that. I did not say that at all. What I said is we don't need that right now. What we need is our priority positions. We don't need that. It's so Man United over the last decade to get these players 3 or 4 years after when we should have actually or could have actually had them or would have been worth having them. You know, that's not the right move for us at the moment. And we shouldn't get distracted from that. And also, we don't even know who's going to own us. So if it was a Qatari takeover, then maybe you'd look at it and go, well, there's synergy there, I guess. That would make a little bit of sense, but that's not where we're at right now. So yeah, I would be really, really surprised. Look, and anything can happen. Never say never, right? But I'm surprised, honestly, that it made its way to the press conference. But I'd rather have that question than how important is it to qualify for the Champions League again? Because yeah, just crazy, absolutely crazy. Big up DJ. DJ's in the chat as well. DJ Talks is in there too. So there you go. I think that's about everything. As I mentioned, it's a short press conference, as is kind of par for the course at the moment, and we're getting closer and closer to the season ending. Feels kind of crazy to think the season's complete after this Sunday, and then we look forward and focus on next season already. We look at transfers, we look at tour in the summer, and one season ends and another begins, which is very exciting. I think today they announced when the January, when the summer transfer window is going to be opening. I think it's June, I want to say 14th, did they say? Or was it the 20th? I forget when they said it was. I think I have it in front of me here. It was 14th of June. Yes, it begins on the 14th of June. So as is always the case with United as well, we'll be linked to every player under the sun. Every player under the sun, despite the fact that, again, money is questionable for us this summer, we will be linked to every player under the sun that you can imagine. It's already started today. Well, it's already started this week, really. Again, you got Neymar. This morning it was Mason Mount as well, about United possibly being interested in Mason Mount for putting together a £55 million bid. Chelsea won 80 or 85 according to reports. And all of this I just look at and go, like, with what budget? You know, and it even happened in January. In January, it was even just as laughable, really. Remember all of those players we were linked to in January? United are interested in this person. United are interested. João Felix. United are going to get João Felix. And at the time, everyone went, "No, we're not. We don't have the money. Burning through cash. 2 cigarettes on the go. We're burning through cash." And then when we didn't get João Felix, you had fans going, "Oh, why didn't United go in for him?" Because we couldn't afford him. Like we couldn't afford João Felix. We couldn't afford these players, and we could only afford like one big signing, and the rest are player sales in the summer. I think us as fans going into this summer transfer window, we also have to be really careful to not, I say, get our hopes up too high of every player that we're linked to we're going to get, because it's just not going to work like that. It's not. And again, things can change between now and then. There had been some reports about hopefully some takeover updates by the end of the week. Preferred bidder maybe being in by Friday. I saw that was a story yesterday, but at the same time, like, we've been told that before too. Don't be shocked. Like I think it was in that same report when it said, the Glazers are delaying the takeover saga until the end of the season. Everyone went, "Oh God!" It went, the season ends on Sunday, so that's just a few extra days of already a process that's taken 6 months to go on. So let's get the takeover stuff sorted first, and then hopefully we can talk about transfers. But there you go, guys. Look, be sure to smash a like on the like button. We've got 600 people watching. See if we can get to 200 likes on the way out. We're 40 likes away from 200. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. What's on tap for the rest of today? Well, I'll tell you what's on tap for the rest of the day. 6 o'clock, there is a preview. Manchester United versus Chelsea preview from UVHQ. Flex is joined by Matisse. Yes, Matisse Ma is going to be saying his piece about Chelsea. It's a funny one, isn't it? Because, I mean, I don't sympathise. I was going to say I sympathise with Chelsea fans. I don't. But they kind of do remind me of us last season. Whatever preview they do, they just go, well, we're going to lose. So, you know, it might be a bit of a one-sided preview, but Fletch is going to be joined by Matisse from UVHQ later on. And they're going to preview tomorrow's game. Of course, as I mentioned, 1 point away from Champions League football. So here's hoping we can get that done. Tomorrow will be a full match day experience, road trip, match view, fan view, full-time view. Remember, if you are a member of the UV Members Club, you can call in. You can have your say with myself on the full-time view after the game. Hopefully, we'll be talking about and celebrating the fact that we're in the Champions League. So if you are a member, you'll be able to call in. All you have to do is click the link. There's a link on the community tab on the channel page after the game for members only the members can see it, and you can call in and have your say with myself, plus there'll be all the fan views, etc. And then, as I mentioned, as we get into the summer, we'll have obviously lots of transfer talks and all that kind of stuff, some really exciting stuff planned. Anyway, guys, look, I'm out of here. Have a good Wednesday afternoon, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Peace.